The stars looked different from the observation deck of the UES horizon. Commander Alex Reed stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the dark space around him. After 20 years in Earth's United Space Force, he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. "Commander, you need to see this." Lieutenant Ben Morgan's voice broke the silence. The young officer's face looked pale, even in the dim light of the deck. Reed turned away from the viewport. "What is it, Morgan?" "Sir, long-range scanners picked up something approaching from the outer system. It's big, really big." Reed followed Morgan to the bridge, where the rest of the crew stood frozen, eyes fixed on the main screen. The object moving toward them was unlike anything humans had built. Its shape reminded Reed of a giant arrowhead, sleek and purposeful, with strange, pulsing lights along its hull. "Is it responding to our signals?" Reed asked. Communications Officer Lisa Park shook her head. "No, sir. We've tried all standard frequencies." Reed felt the familiar tightness in his chest that came before battle. "Alert Earth Command. Tell them, we have a first contact situation." Before Park could send the message, the ship's systems flickered. A moment later, the main screen changed. Instead of showing the approaching vessel, it displayed a face. At least Reed thought it was a face. The creature had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, skin that looked like polished stone, and no visible mouth. When it spoke, the words seemed to form directly in Reed's mind. "Humans of Earth, we are the Vaughn. We have watched your world for many cycles. The time for observation has ended. The time for judgment begins." Reed stepped forward. As ship commander, first contact protocol made him Earth's representative. "This is Commander Alex Reed of the United Earth Space Force. We welcome peaceful contact with your people." The alien's upper eyes narrowed. "Peace? You speak of peace while your history drowns in war. We have studied your combat. It is unrefined." Reed kept his face neutral despite the insult. "Our past doesn't define our future. We've united our planet and moved beyond our old conflicts." "Have you?" The alien's tone felt cold in Reed's mind. "Or have you simply found no worthy opponents among your own kind?" The bridge fell silent. Reed chose his next words carefully. "We prefer diplomacy to combat, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "You misunderstand, human. We do not threaten. We evaluate. I am General Dorn of the Vaughn High Command. Combat is the measure by which we judge all species. Yours is lacking." Reed felt his jaw tighten. "With respect, General, you can't judge an entire species without knowing them." "But we do know you," Dorn replied. "We have watched your wars, studied your tactics. You fight without discipline, without honor. Your combat is chaos." "Perhaps you've misunderstood what you've seen," Reed suggested. Dorn's eyes pulsed with a blue light. "To prove our assessment correct, we will send representatives to your planet. Your leaders will meet with ours. If you impress us, perhaps there is hope for cooperation between our kinds." The screen went dark before Reed could respond. 3. Days later, Reed stood in the grand meeting hall of the United Earth Government headquarters in Geneva. Around him, Earth's highest-ranking military and political leaders waited nervously. The Vaughn ship had entered Earth orbit that morning, causing worldwide panic despite government assurances. President Kate Wilson approached Reed. "Commander, you're the only human who's spoken with them. What should we expect?" Reed shook his head. "They're different, Madam President. They seem fixated on combat as a measure of civilization, and they don't think much of ours." Wilson frowned. "That's concerning considering their technology is clearly advanced beyond ours." Before Reed could respond, the room's massive doors slid open. 5 Vaughn entered, each at least 7 feet tall. Their stone-like skin gleamed under the lights, and they moved with perfect coordination, like parts of a single machine. "General," Dorn led the group, his 4 eyes scanning the room before settling on Reed. "The observer," he said, the words again forming directly in everyone's minds. "You will translate our concepts if needed." President Wilson stepped forward, extending her hand in greeting. "General Dorn, welcome to Earth. I'm President Kate Wilson. Dorn ignored her hand. Your greeting customs are noted but unnecessary. We are here to evaluate, not to form bonds. Wilson lowered her hand slowly. Evaluate what exactly? Your worthiness, Dorn replied simply. The galaxy contains many species. Resources are finite. Those who cannot defend themselves cannot claim a place among the stars. Admiral James Turner, head of Earth's unified military, moved to stand beside Wilson. Are you threatening us, General? Dorn's upper eyes blinked slowly. No threat, merely reality. Show us your combat capabilities. Prove you understand the art of war. Turner glanced at Wilson, who nodded slightly. We can arrange demonstrations of our military technologies and tactics. Good, Dorn said. But first we will share ours, to establish a baseline. One of the other Vaughn stepped forward, holding what looked like a small metal sphere. He placed it on the floor and stepped back. The sphere rose into the air, projecting a three-dimensional image of a planet much like Earth. This was the world of the Krell, Dorn explained. They too thought they understood combat. The planet in the hologram suddenly erupted with explosions, entire continents disappearing in flashes of light. Within seconds, nothing remained but a dead, smoking rock. The room fell silent. That, Dorn said quietly, is refined combat. Quick, efficient, total. President Wilson's face had gone pale. That's not combat, that's genocide. Dorn's eyes pulsed. A meaningless distinction. The purpose of combat is victory. Reed felt sick watching the hologram. He stepped forward. The purpose of combat is to achieve objectives. Total destruction is rarely the objective. Dorn turned to him. Explain. War isn't about destroying your enemy completely, Reed said. It's about achieving specific goals with minimum necessary force. Sometimes the goal is making your enemy stop fighting without destroying them. Inefficient, another Vaughn said. Admiral Turner joined in. Not at all. If you destroy everything, what have you won? An empty rock. True victory preserves what you're fighting for. Dorn made a dismissive gesture. Words. We require demonstration, not philosophy. Tomorrow we will observe your military capabilities. As the Vaughn delegation departed, Reed caught President Wilson's eye. She motioned him to follow her to a private room where Admiral Turner and several other officials gathered. Thoughts? Wilson asked the group. Turner spoke first. They're testing us. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already. I agree, Reed said, but I'm concerned about their fixation on combat prowess. They clearly don't understand our approach to warfare. Dr. Anna Lee, the leading xenopsychologist, shook her head. Their entire culture seems built around combat as the ultimate measure of worth. To them, our reluctance to embrace total war might look like weakness, not wisdom. So what do we show them tomorrow? Wilson asked. Turner considered this. Our best technology, certainly, but I think Commander Reed should lead the demonstrations. Reed looked surprised. Sir, you fought in more campaigns than anyone else here, Turner explained. From the Arctic Resource Wars to the Mars Colony Rebellion. You understand combat in different environments against different enemies. And more importantly, you understand that combat is about more than just destruction. Wilson nodded. I agree. Commander Reed, you'll head the demonstration team. Show the Vaughn that humans understand combat better than they think. The next morning, Reed stood on the vast training grounds of the North American Defense Complex. Behind him, Earth's most advanced battle systems were arranged for demonstration. Tanks, aircraft, power armor units, and even a small orbital strike platform had been prepared. The Vaughn delegation arrived precisely on time, moving in perfect formation as always. General Dorn approached Reed. Begin, was all he said. For the next 3 hours, Reed led demonstrations of Earth's military capabilities. Tanks crushed obstacles. Aircraft performed impossible maneuvers. Soldiers in power armor demonstrated their enhanced strength and speed. Through it all, the Vaughn watched without comment, their stone faces unreadable. Finally, Reed brought them to the command center, where a large simulation screen dominated one wall. This is our combat simulation system, Reed explained. We use it to train officers and test strategies without risking lives. Dorn's eyes pulsed with interest. Show us. Reed nodded to the technician who started the simulation. It showed a vastly outnumbered human force defending against an overwhelming enemy. This scenario is impossible to win through direct confrontation, Reed explained. The defending force must use the environment, psychological warfare, and unconventional tactics. The Vaughn watched as the simulated human forces split up, set ambushes, cut supply lines, and gradually wore down their numerically superior enemy without ever engaging in a pitched battle. When the simulation ended with the larger force surrendering, Dorn turned to Reed. This is not combat, this is trickery. Reed smiled slightly. This is human combat, General. We evolved fighting not just each other, but the harshest environments on our world. We learned to use every advantage, to adapt to any situation. Sometimes the smartest strategy is avoiding direct confrontation altogether. Dorn's eyes darkened. Deception and evasion, these are not the marks of true warriors. With respect, Reed replied, survival against superior forces is exactly what marks true warriors. Anyone can win with overwhelming force. The real test is winning when everything is against you. For a long moment, Dorn stared at Reed. Then he turned to his companions and made a series of clicking sounds. Their actual language, Reed realized. After what seemed like an argument, Dorn faced Reed again. Your demonstrations have been educational, Commander, but unconvincing. True combat follows order, discipline, overwhelming force. Your approach is primitive, relying on chaos and deception. Reed felt his patience wearing thin. General, with all due respect, you're missing the point. There is no single true combat. Combat evolves based on necessity and environment. Enough, Dorn said sharply. We have seen sufficient evidence. Humans are unworthy of galactic cooperation. Your combat philosophy is fundamentally flawed. As the Vaughn turned to leave, Reed called after them. You're making a mistake, General. You think you understand combat, but you've only seen one kind. Dorn paused. Is that a challenge, Commander? Reed stood his ground. It's a fact. And if you force us to prove it, you might not like the lesson. Dorn's eyes flashed. Then let the lesson begin. In 1 Earth month, we will return to test your combat worthiness directly. Prepare yourselves. As the Vaughn departed, Reed felt the weight of what had just happened. He had essentially started a war with an alien civilization far more advanced than Earth. Admiral Turner approached him. Well, that could have gone better. Reed shook his head. They never intended it to go well, sir. They've already decided we're inferior. Now they want to prove it. Can we beat them? Turner asked quietly. Reed, watch the Vaughn ship rise into the sky. Not their way, but they don't understand human combat yet, and that might be our only advantage. Turner nodded grimly. Then we'd better make it count. 1 month to prepare for a war with an enemy we barely understand, Reed agreed, to show them what human combat really means. 1 month wasn't much time to prepare for war. Commander Alex Reed knew this better than anyone as he stood in the underground war room beneath Geneva. Around him, Earth's top military minds argued loudly over strategies and tactics. We should strike first, General Harris pounded his fist on the table. Use everything we have before they return. Admiral Turner shook his head. With what? Their ships can cross solar systems. Ours barely reach Mars. We hide then, another officer suggested. Scatter our forces. Go underground. President Wilson raised her hand for silence. The room quieted immediately. These suggestions assume we've already lost. I didn't choose any of you for your defeatist attitudes. She turned to Reed. Commander, you've had more interaction with the Vaughn than anyone. What's your assessment? All eyes turned to Reed. He took a deep breath. The Vaughn are technologically superior, yes. But they have weaknesses. Their approach to combat is rigid, predictable. They value order and overwhelming force above all else. And how does that help us? General Harris asked. Reed walked to the holographic display in the center of the room. May I? At President Wilson's nod, Reed activated the system. A 3-dimensional map of Earth's solar system appeared. The Vaughn will expect us to defend Earth directly. That's what they would do, concentrate forces around their home world. Reed manipulated the display, highlighting various points throughout the system. But we won't. We'll scatter our forces here, here, and here. Admiral Turner studied the map. Those are all minor outposts, mining stations, hardly worth defending. Exactly, Reed said. Places they won't expect resistance, places where small mobile forces can strike and disappear. Guerrilla warfare, President Wilson said thoughtfully. Against an alien invasion. Reed nodded. The Vaughn understand direct confrontation. They expect it. What they don't understand is adaptation, unpredictability. He looked around the room. Our history is filled with examples of smaller forces defeating larger ones through unconventional tactics. Theory is one thing, General Harris grumbled. Practice is another. Then let's put it into practice, President Wilson decided. Commander Reed, I'm placing you in charge of a special task force. You'll have whatever resources you need to study Vaughn combat capabilities and develop countermeasures. Reed stood straighter. Yes, Madam President. The rest of you will coordinate global defenses. If the Vaughn do target Earth directly, we need to be ready. She looked at each person in the room. 1 month, make it count. 2 weeks later, Reed sat in a small office at the Lunar Research Base, surrounded by screens displaying Vaughn ship movements. Since their ultimatum, the alien vessels had remained at the edge of the solar system, occasionally sending small scout ships closer to Earth. A knock on the door interrupted his concentration. Come in. A man Reed didn't recognize entered, carrying a tablet. He was older, with gray hair and glasses that looked oddly old-fashioned in an age of corrective surgery. Commander Reed, I'm Jack Wilson, History Department at Oxford. Admiral Turner sent me. Reed raised an eyebrow. A historian? I was expecting another tactical analyst. Wilson smiled slightly. I am a tactical analyst, just not the kind you're used to. I specialize in historical warfare patterns. Reed gestured to a chair. What can a historian tell me about fighting aliens, Professor? Perhaps nothing, Wilson admitted, sitting down. Or perhaps everything. May I? He pointed to the screen showing Vaughn movements. Reed nodded and Wilson studied the displays for several minutes in silence. Interesting, he finally said. Their patrol patterns are extremely regular, almost ancient. Ancient? Wilson nodded. They move like Persian immortals or Roman legions. Perfect formation, predictable rotations, clear command structure. He looked at Reed. When's the last time human armies fought like that? Reed considered this. Not since before the urban wars of the 2030s. Modern combat is too fluid, too dependent on small unit actions. Exactly. Wilson pulled up data on his tablet and transferred it to Reed's main screen. Look at these historical battle formations, spanning Earth's history. Roman testudo, Napoleonic squares, early 21st century fire teams. Reed watched as the display showed the evolution of human battle tactics over centuries. See the pattern? Wilson asked. As weapons evolved, formations loosened. As communication improved, units grew smaller and more independent. The Vaughn, they're like an army frozen in time. All the technology in the universe, but their tactical doctrine looks positively medieval. Reed leaned forward, suddenly interested. You're saying they fight like ancient armies despite advanced technology? I'm suggesting, Wilson said carefully, that their entire concept of warfare may be fundamentally different from ours. They appear to value order and hierarchy above adaptability. Their technology has advanced, but their tactics haven't needed to, because they've never faced an enemy who forced them to evolve. Until now, Reed said quietly. Wilson nodded. Perhaps, but there's something else you should see. He pulled up another file. This is all the data we have on Vaughn physical characteristics. Reed reviewed the information. Stone-like skin, 4 eyes providing exceptional peripheral vision, communication that seemed both verbal and telepathic. They evolved as herd predators, Wilson explained, moving and hunting in groups. Therefore, eyes let them watch in all directions while moving in perfect coordination. Their telepathic abilities, or whatever they are, facilitate instant communication between squad members, making them perfect soldiers. Perfect soldiers for their style of combat, Wilson corrected, which is why they can't understand ours. We evolved differently. Humans are persistence hunters. We track, we adapt, we outlast. Our strength isn't in our natural armor or telepathy, it's in our endurance and our creativity. Reed stood and paced the small office. So you're saying, we can't beat them at their game, but they can't beat us at ours? At least that's my theory, Wilson finished for him. The problem is, we don't know enough about them to be certain. As if on cue, an alarm blared. Reed rushed to the main console. What's happening? Lieutenant Morgan's voice came through the speakers. Commander, we have Vaughn ships approaching the asteroid belt mining station. They're moving fast. Reed felt a chill. The mining station was nearly defenseless, staffed by civilians with only a small security detail. Patch me through to Admiral Turner. Moments later, Turner's face appeared on screen. Reed, are you seeing this? Yes, sir. The mining station doesn't stand a chance if the Vaughn attack. Turner's expression was grim. The station has sent out distress calls. We have 2 patrol ships in the vicinity, but they're not equipped for combat against Vaughn technology. Reed made a quick decision. Order them to evacuate the civilians, but stay in the area. Tell them not to engage directly. And just let the Vaughn destroy the station? Turner asked. No, Reed said, an idea forming. Tell them to use the asteroid field. Hide there, set up observation posts. I want every bit of data they can gather on Vaughn combat tactics. He looked at Wilson. If the professor is right, we need to confirm the Vaughn's weaknesses before the real battle begins. The asteroid belt mining station was a collection of interconnected modules attached to a large mineral-rich rock. Nearly 50 miners and their families lived there, extracting valuable minerals for Earth's industries. Captain Lee of the patrol ship UES Swift watched through her view screen as the evacuation ships pulled away from the station. Her orders from Mo, Commander Reed, had been clear. Save the civilians, then observe and gather intelligence. All civilians clear, Captain, her first officer reported. Good. Now take us into the asteroid field. Passive sensors only. The Swift slipped between tumbling rocks, using them as cover. The second patrol ship, UES Harrier, did the same on the opposite side of the field. 3 Vaughn vessels approached the now abandoned mining station. Unlike their massive mothership, these were smaller, perhaps frigates or destroyers by human classification. They moved in perfect triangular formation. Recording everything, the sensor officer said, getting good data on their propulsion systems, energy signatures. Captain Lee watched as the Vaughn ships surrounded the station. What are they doing? Instead of opening fire immediately, the 3 ships positioned themselves at equal distances around the station. Then, simultaneously, they fired. The station disappeared in a blinding flash. Total destruction, the first officer whispered. There's nothing left but debris. Lee gripped her chair. That level of coordination in their attack, it's like they're a single organism. Captain, the communications officer interrupted. We're picking up a signal from the Vaughn ships. I think they're talking to each other. Can you intercept it? Trying, but it's like nothing I've ever seen. Part normal transmission, part something else. It's as if they're sharing thoughts directly. Suddenly, one of the Vaughn ships changed course, heading straight for the asteroid field where the Swift was hiding. They've detected us, Lee realized. Evasive maneuvers. Get deeper into the field. The Swift accelerated, weaving between asteroids. The Vaughn ship followed, its movements precise but somehow mechanical. They're not adapting to the terrain, the pilot noted with surprise. They're maintaining formation even though they're alone. Lee saw the opportunity. Use the asteroids. Get behind that large one ahead. The Swift ducked behind a house-sized rock. The Vaughn ship followed the exact same path the Swift had taken, clearly expecting the human vessel to continue in a straight line. Instead, the Swift had stopped and reversed. As the Vaughn ship passed, Lee gave the order. Fire everything we have at their engine section. The Swift's weapons weren't designed to take on alien warships, but concentrated fire at close range had an effect. The Vaughn ship's engines flickered and failed. "Direct hit," the weapons officer called out. But the damaged Vaughn ship wasn't helpless. It rotated with surprising speed and fired at the Swift. "Evasive!" Lee shouted. But it was too late. The blast caught the Swift's port side, tearing through its hull. Emergency systems activated, sealing compartments as atmosphere vented into space. "Hull breach in sections 3 through 7, an officer reported. "We've lost engines." Lee hit. The ship-wide comm. "All hands abandon ship. Get to the escape pods." As her crew rushed to evacuate, Lee stayed at her station long enough to send one final message to Earth Command. Vaughn ships destroyed mining station. Swift engaged one vessel. Confirm their weakness. They don't adapt to unpredictable movements. Their coordination is perfect but rigid. We managed to damage one before they hit us. The Harrier is still undetected. Swift is lost. Sending all sensor data now. She hit the transmission button just as a second blast from the Vaughn ship tore through the bridge. Back on the lunar base, Reed received the Swift's final transmission with a heavy heart. Captain Lee and half her crew were lost, but their sacrifice had provided invaluable information. "They proved your theory correct," Reed told Professor Wilson as they reviewed the data. "The Vaughn maintain perfect formation even when it's not tactically sound. They follow predictable patterns," Wilson nodded solemnly. "And now they've drawn first blood. The war has truly begun." Admiral Turner's face appeared on the main screen. "Commander, we've just received word from the President. The Vaughn have sent a message. They say the attack on the mining station was a combat evaluation exercise. They're giving us one more week to, and I quote, demonstrate worthy combat capability or face systematic elimination." Reed's jaw tightened. "They still think this is some kind of test. They don't even recognize they're in a real war." "What's our response?" Turner asked. Reed looked at the tactical display showing the damaged Vaughn ship still drifting in the asteroid field. "Tell the Harrier to continue observation but remain hidden. And get me everything we have on electronic warfare systems." "Electronic warfare?" Wilson asked after Turner's image disappeared. Reed's eyes narrowed. "If the Vaughn communicate partially, through some form of telepathy, maybe we can disrupt it, break their perfect coordination. And if we can't?" Reed looked at the images of the destroyed mining station. "Then we make them fight our way, in chaotic environments, on our terms." "They thought they understood combat, Professor. It's time we show them how wrong they are." The red dust of Mars swirled around the colony dome as emergency sirens wailed. Inside the main control room, Colony Director Tom Miller watched in horror as 5 Vaughn warships descended from orbit. "Everyone to the emergency shelters," he ordered, "through the colony-wide communication system. This is not a drill. The Mars colony was humanity's pride, the first permanent settlement on another world. Nearly 5,000 people called it home, most civilians working in research and resource extraction. Its defenses were minimal, designed more for meteor protection than war." Miller opened a direct channel to Earth. "Mars colony to Earth Command. Vaughn ships in orbit. Evacuation in progress. Requesting immediate assistance." Millions of miles away in the war room beneath Geneva, Commander Reed received the transmission. 3 weeks had passed since the asteroid belt incident, and Earth had been bracing for the Vaughn's next move. "They're attacking Mars," Reed informed the gathered military leaders. "Full invasion force." President Wilson's face hardened. "How? Many people are at risk?" "Nearly 5,000 civilians," Admiral Turner replied, "and only 100 security personnel. We need to get them out of there," General Harris said. Reed shook his head. "We don't have time. Mars is 3 days away at our fastest speed," but he paused, an idea forming. "Maybe we don't need to evacuate them." All eyes turned to him. "What are you suggesting, Commander?" President Wilson asked. Reed activated the holographic display, showing the Mars colony layout. "The colony has an extensive network of underground tunnels, mining operations, research labs, storage facilities, places the colonists know like the backs of their hands, and the Vaughn don't," Professor Wilson added, catching on quickly. Reed nodded. Exactly. If the colonists can get underground, they can fight in an environment that negates Vaughn advantages and plays to human strengths. They're civilians, not soldiers, General Harris objected. They don't need to be soldiers, Reed countered. They just need to survive and make the Vaughn pay for every inch of ground. He looked at President Wilson. We need to get them instructions quickly. Wilson didn't hesitate. Do it, and prepare our fleet. Even if it takes 3 days, we're going to Mars. On Mars, Director Miller received Reed's transmission with growing disbelief. You want us to fight? He asked incredulously. We're scientists, engineers, miners, not warriors. Reed's face on the screen was sympathetic but firm. I'm not asking you to win a war, Director, just to survive until help arrives. The underground tunnels are your advantage. The Vaughn fight in formation, in open spaces. Make them come to you one by one, in the dark. Miller glanced at his security chief, a former military officer named James Rivera. Can we do this? Rivera considered the question seriously. The mining equipment could be repurposed, drills, cutters, even the heavy machinery. In the narrow tunnels, they might be effective. And we know the tunnels, Miller realized. Every fork, every dead end. Exactly, Reed confirmed. Set traps, create false routes, make them chase shadows while you pick them off from hidden positions. We're sending help, but you need to hold out. As if to emphasize the urgency, the colony dome shuddered under the first Vaughn attack. Miller straightened his back. We'll do what we can. Mars colony out. He turned to Rivera. Get everyone underground and gather every tool, every piece of equipment that could serve as a weapon. We're about to give these aliens a lesson in human resourcefulness. The first Vaughn soldiers entered the Mars colony 2 hours later, moving in perfect formation through the abandoned main dome. 3 rows of 10 warriors each, their stone-like, bodies protected by shimmering energy fields, weapons at the ready. They found nothing but empty buildings. Their commander, a sub-general named Krav, ordered a systematic search. The Vaughn spread out in groups of 5, still maintaining precise distances between each soldier. In the primary mining tunnel, a group of Vaughn soldiers advanced cautiously, lights mounted on their weapons illuminating the dusty passageway. From his hiding place in a side tunnel, Dr. Peter Williams, a geologist who had never held a weapon in his life, watched them approach. Beside him, 3 miners gripped makeshift weapons, drill bits attached to metal poles, mining lasers reconfigured to higher power. Williams waited until the lead Vaughn passed the junction, then pressed the button on his remote. The explosives they had placed, originally used for clearing rock formations, detonated. The tunnel collapsed behind the Vaughn group, cutting them off from their companions. At the same time, mining equipment fell from the ceiling ahead of them, blocking their forward path. Trapped and isolated, the 5 Vaughn soldiers formed a defensive circle, backs together, weapons outward, a perfect formation for an open battlefield, but useless in the narrow tunnel. From multiple hidden passages, the colonists attacked. Mining lasers burned through Vaughn energy shields. Heavy drilling equipment normally used to bore through Martian rock proved equally effective against alien armor. The battle was brief and one-sided. When it ended, 5 Vaughn warriors lay dead, and the colonists melted back into the tunnel, networked to prepare their next ambush. Similar scenes played out across the colony's underground system. The Vaughn, trained to fight in coordinated groups in open terrain, found themselves at a severe disadvantage in the cramped, maze-like tunnels. On Earth, Reed monitored the situation through sporadic updates from Mars. The colony was holding out better than anyone had expected. The Vaughn losses were mounting, while the colonists, fighting on familiar ground with improvised weapons, had suffered relatively few casualties. They're not adapting, Professor Wilson noted as they reviewed reports. The Vaughn keep sending soldiers into the tunnels in the same formations, using the same tactics despite heavy losses. Reed nodded. They don't know how to fight any other way. Their entire combat doctrine is based on overwhelming force and perfect coordination, which means nothing in the tunnels, Admiral Turner added. Their telepathic communication is disrupted. Underground, their formations are useless in narrow spaces, and their technology gives them no advantage in close quarters. Reed studied the latest report from Mars. Director Miller says they've destroyed nearly a third of the Vaughn ground forces, but the aliens are bringing in heavier weapons, trying to collapse the tunnel network. President Wilson's image appeared on the main screen. Commander, our fleet is ready to launch. 8 warships, our best. They'll reach Mars in 3 days. Will that be soon enough? Turner asked quietly. Reed couldn't answer. The Mars colony was exceeding all expectations, but they were still civilians fighting professional warriors. Sooner or later, the Vaughn would adapt, or simply bring enough firepower to obliterate the entire colony from orbit. We need a diversion, Reed said suddenly. Something to draw Vaughn attention away from Mars until our fleet arrives. What did you have in mind? Wilson asked. Reed pointed to a section of the solar system display. Jupiter's moons. The research stations there, small, but strategic. If we can make the Vaughn think we're mounting an offensive from Jupiter, they might divert forces from Mars. We don't have enough ships to mount a real offensive, Turner objected. We don't need real ships, Reed replied. Just signals that look like ships. He turned to the communications officer. How quickly can we deploy communication buoys programmed to mimic warship signatures? The officer thought for a moment. 12 hours to program them. Another 18 to position them. Near Jupiter. Do it, President Wilson ordered. Make it look like we're gathering a fleet behind Jupiter's moons. As the officers rushed to implement the plan, Professor Wilson approached Reed. A deception strategy, quite effective throughout human military history, Reed nodded. Let's hope it works on aliens too. On the Vaughn command ship orbiting Mars, General Dorn received the report of another failed assault on the underground complex. His upper eyes narrowed in frustration. Unacceptable, he stated to his officers. These humans are untrained civilians. How are they defeating our elite warriors? Sub-Commander Vex displayed the casualty figures. They refuse to fight properly, General. They hide, they set traps, they strike from shadows. There is no honor in their methods. Honor is irrelevant, Dorn snapped. Results matter. Increase orbital bombardment, collapse all tunnel entrances. We have detected unusual activity near Jupiter, another officer reported. Multiple ship signatures appearing behind Callisto. Analysis suggests a human fleet gathering. Dorn studied the data. A fleet at Jupiter could threaten his position at Mars, potentially cutting off his forces from their return path. A flanking maneuver, he concluded. Clever but futile. He made a quick decision. Send 2 warships to investigate and neutralize this threat. Continue operations here. As the orders were relayed, Dorn couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. The humans were not fighting according to any combat doctrine he recognized. They refused to meet superior force with direct resistance. Instead, they scattered, hid, struck from unexpected angles. It was unsettling. Back in the Mars tunnels, Director Miller received word of the approaching Earth fleet with enormous relief. They had held out for 2 days, but casualties were mounting. The Vaughn had begun systematically collapsing tunnel sections from orbit, forcing the colonists deeper underground. 3 more days, he told his exhausted people. We just need to hold on for 3 more days. Security Chief Rivera looked doubtful. The main life support systems are failing. Air recyclers weren't designed for this many people in the deep tunnels. Miller nodded grimly. I know, but we've come this far. We can't give up now. A young engineer named Anna Park approached them. Director, I have an idea. The Vaughn communication system, we've been monitoring it. It's partly electronic, partly something else, maybe telepathic, maybe quantum. But the electronic part, we might be able to jam it. Miller looked interested. How? The colony's main communication array, Park explained. If we reconfigure it to broadcast on their frequencies using rotating encryption patterns, we might disrupt their coordination. The array is in the main dome, Rivera pointed out. Under Vaughn control. Park nodded. I know, but there's maintenance. Access through the emergency tunnels. A small team could reach it. Miller considered the plan. It was risky, but if it worked, do it. Take whoever you need. 12 hours later, as the Vaughn prepared another assault on the tunnel network, their communication system suddenly filled with static. Orders became garbled. Coordination between units broke down. In orbit, General Dorn experienced the disruption firsthand. The constant background connection with his officers, the shared consciousness that made Vaughn military operations so effective, fragmented into chaos. Find the source, he ordered as his ship systems fluctuated. Locate and destroy it, but the damage was done. On the ground, Vaughn units lost formation. Individual soldiers making decisions without the guiding intelligence of their commanders, some continued the assault on the tunnels, others retreated to defensive positions. The perfect coordination that defined Vaughn combat dissolved. The IE colonists seized the opportunity, launching counterattacks from multiple tunnel exits simultaneously. Vaughn soldiers, unused to fighting as individuals, fell back in disarray. In the confusion, no one noticed the small Earth ship that dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Martian atmosphere, a fast scout vessel that had pushed its engines beyond safety limits to arrive ahead of the main fleet. Commander Reed had come to Mars personally, unable to wait while others fought his battle. His voice crackled through the colony's communication system. Mars Colony, this is Commander Reed. The cavalry has arrived early. The rest of the fleet is right behind me. In the command tunnel, Director Miller's tired face broke into a smile. Commander, you have no idea how good it is to hear your voice. Getting reports of Vaughn confusion, Reed replied. You're doing incredible work down there. Miller nodded, though Reed couldn't see it. Our engineer reconfigured our comm array to jam their signals. They don't seem to know how to fight without their hive mind. Perfect, Reed said. Now let's finish this. I'm sending down tactical data on Vaughn ship weaknesses. Target their command and control systems first. As the information transmitted, Miller gathered his people for one final push. The Vaughn thought they understood combat, he told them. It's time to show them how wrong they were. Above Mars, the first ships of Earth's fleet appeared, weapons charged and ready for battle. The war for Mars, and perhaps humanity's future, had reached its turning point. The battle for Mars raged across the red planet's orbit. Earth's fleet, though smaller and less advanced than the Vaughn ships, fought with unexpected effectiveness. Commander Reed, aboard the flagship UES Defender, watched as human vessels darted between the larger alien warships, striking quickly before retreating. Another hit on the Vaughn command ship, Lieutenant Morgan reported. Their shields are weakening. Reed nodded, studying the tactical display. 6 Earth warships against 4 remaining Vaughn vessels. The odds were improving, but victory was far from certain. Keep targeting their communication arrays, Reed ordered. Don't let them re-establish their network. On the Vaughn command ship, General Dorn struggled to comprehend what was happening. His warriors, the elite of the Vaughn military, were losing to a technologically inferior enemy. Without their telepathic coordination, Vaughn ships fought as individuals, something they had never trained for. This is impossible, Dorn growled to his bridge officers. Their vessels are primitive, their weapons inferior. Subcommander Vex studied the battle data. They do not fight as we expected, General. They avoid direct confrontation, strike vulnerable points, retreat before we can respond effectively. Cowardice, another officer declared. No, Dorn said, slowly, his 4 eyes narrowing. Not cowardice, strategy. They know they cannot match our power, so they fight differently. He watched as an Earth ship darted beneath a Vaughn cruiser, fired at point-blank range, then vanished behind Mars's. Smaller moon, they are adapting. The battle continued for hours, neither side gaining decisive advantage. Then a transmission broke through on all frequencies. This is President Kate Wilson of Earth. General Dorn, hear me. This conflict can end now. Withdraw your forces and we can discuss terms. Dorn's upper eyes pulsed with anger. Surrender to an inferior species? Unthinkable. But even as he spoke, another Vaughn ship exploded, its reactor core breached by a concentrated attack from 3 Earth vessels. Sir, Vex said quietly. Our forces are at 40% combat effectiveness. Without the coordination network, Dorn made a harsh gesture, silencing him. Open a channel. The general's face appeared on President Wilson's screen in the Geneva War Room. Human leader, your resistance is unexpected but futile. We may lose this battle, but the Vaughn Collective has many fleets. You cannot hope to survive a full-scale war. Wilson's expression remained calm. Perhaps. But ask yourself this, General. If your elite force is struggling against our hastily assembled defense, what will happen when you face our full military capacity? When we have time to prepare, to build new weapons specifically designed to target your weaknesses? Dorn's silence was telling. We don't want war, General, Wilson continued. We want to live in peace. But if forced to fight, humans will fight with everything we have. And we are very, very good at adapting to overcome stronger opponents. After a long moment, Dorn responded. A temporary cessation of hostilities may be practical. To reassess. Wilson nodded. Agreed. Withdraw your forces from Mars orbit. We will not pursue. As the transmission ended, Admiral Turner looked at Wilson with raised eyebrows. Do you think they'll honor it? For now, she replied. They need time to understand what just happened. So do we. 1 week later, Commander Reed stood before the United Earth Government Council in Geneva. The Vaughn fleet had retreated beyond Neptune, maintaining position but taking no hostile action. The battle for Mars taught us something crucial, Reed explained to the assembled leaders. The Vaughn aren't invincible. They have significant weaknesses we can exploit. He activated the presentation screen showing footage from the Martian conflict. First, they rely heavily on their telepathic network for coordination. When we disrupted it, their effectiveness dropped dramatically. Professor Wilson stepped forward. Second, their combat doctrine is rigid, designed for overwhelming force and direct confrontation. They struggle with guerrilla tactics, asymmetric warfare, and rapidly changing battle conditions. Admiral Turner added, Our analysis suggests the Vaughn have rarely, if ever, faced an enemy that forced them to adapt. Their technological superiority has always been enough. President Wilson considered this information. So what's our strategy? Moving forward? They're still technologically superior, and the general mentioned other fleets. Reed nodded. We use the time they've given us. Develop weapons specifically designed to disrupt their coordination network. Train our forces in tactics the Vaughn can't counter. And, he paused, we learn more about them. Understand why they fight the way they do. We've been analyzing everything we captured, Professor Wilson said. Their language, technology, historical records from their ship's databases. It's revealed something fascinating. He displayed a series of alien star charts on the screen. The Vaughn have conquered 12 star systems before encountering us. In each case, they faced species that evolved from solitary predators or prey, animals, species that, when they developed civilization, built military forces modeled after their natural predator-prey relationships. What's your point? General Harris asked impatiently. Humans are different, Wilson explained. We evolved as social hunters. Our early warfare was against other humans, enemies who thought like us, adapted like us, learned from defeat. Every human conflict throughout history has been a contest of adaptation, of outthinking an equally intelligent opponent. Reed picked up the thread. The Vaughn have never faced an enemy like us, one that evolved fighting itself. That's why they don't understand our combat methods. They've never needed to develop the flexibility, the creative thinking that human warfare demands. The council chamber fell silent as this realization sank in. Finally, President Wilson spoke. So our greatest weapon isn't technology or numbers. It's our history of conflict. The fact that we've spent thousands of years learning to fight and adapt against ourselves. Exactly, Reed confirmed. The very thing the Vaughn criticized, our chaotic, unpredictable approach to combat, is what they can't counter. If you're right, Turner said, we need to press this advantage while we have it before they adapt to our methods. Reed shook his head. I don't think they can adapt quickly. Their entire civilization, their biology, their psychology, It's all built around hierarchy and order. Change doesn't come easily to them. So what's your recommendation, Commander? President Wilson asked. Reed straightened. We take the fight to them. Not as a full-scale invasion, we're not ready for that, but a mission, a strike at the heart of their fleet to show them what humans are truly capable of. That sounds like a suicide mission, General Harris objected. High risk, Reed admitted, but high reward. If we can capture Dorn himself, force negotiations, from a position of strength. President Wilson considered the proposal carefully. Who would lead this mission? Reed's answer was simple. I would. 3 days later, Reed sat in the briefing room of the UES Paragon, a stealth vessel specially modified for the coming mission. Around him were 20 of Earth's best special forces operators, men and women chosen for their adaptability and unconventional thinking. The mission is straightforward, Reed explained. We approach the Vaughn fleet using the stealth technology developed from studying their sensors. We board General Dorn's command ship, capture him, and return with him to Earth. Captain Maya Singh, the team's tactical leader, studied the holographic display of the Vaughn fleet. Straightforward, he says. Sir, with respect, this is the most complex infiltration mission ever attempted. Against an alien enemy we barely understand, using untested technology. Reed nodded. I know the risks, Captain. But consider the alternative. The Vaughn will return, probably with reinforcements. When they do, they'll be prepared for our tactics. This might be our only chance to end this conflict on our terms. Sergeant Marcus Torres, the team's demolitions expert, raised his hand. Commander, assuming we get aboard their ship, how do we find Dorn? These vessels are massive. Intelligence gathered from Mars suggests Vaughn command ships follow a standard layout, Reed replied. The bridge will be at the ship's center, heavily protected, but we're not going to the bridge. The team looked puzzled. We're going to their communication array, Reed continued. If our theory is correct, disrupting their telepathic network will create chaos throughout the ship. In that confusion, we locate Dorn and extract him. Lieutenant Sarah Chen, the team's electronics specialist, looked skeptical. Sir, jamming their communications is one thing, but actually boarding their ship, their internal security systems, their crew, will be designed to repel external attacks, Reed finished, not infiltration from within. The Vaughn think in terms of overwhelming force, direct confrontation. The idea of a small team slipping aboard undetected, operating in their blind spots, it's not in their tactical playbook. Professor Wilson, who had insisted on joining the mission despite not being military, spoke up. Commander Reed is correct. Throughout their history, the Vaughn have never faced enemies capable of such tactics. Their security will be oriented toward preventing assault, not infiltration. Captain Singh remained doubtful. Even if we get aboard, even if we capture Dorn, how do we extract? The moment they realize what's happened, every ship in their fleet will be hunting us. Reed smiled grimly. That's where human unpredictability comes in. We're not extracting through their fleet. He manipulated the holographic display, showing a course that led away from the Vaughn formation toward the asteroid belt. We're going through it. The team stared at the display. The route Reed showed would take them through some of the most dangerous space in the solar system, dense asteroid fields that would challenge even the best pilots. The Vaughn ships are powerful but massive, Reed explained. They can't maneuver effectively in tight spaces. The asteroid belt will neutralize their numerical advantage, force them to follow a single file through narrow passages. And if they decide to just destroy the asteroids? Torres asked. They won't risk it, Professor Wilson said. Not with their general aboard our ship. Their entire culture is built around hierarchy, honor. Losing a high-ranking officer to what they would see as cowardice, it would be unthinkable. Reed looked at each member of his team. I won't lie to you. This mission has a low probability of success by conventional standards. But conventional standards don't apply here. We're not fighting a conventional enemy and we're not using conventional tactics. He activated a new display showing Earth, Mars, and the scattered human colonies. Every person in human space is counting on us. Not to win a war, we're not ready for that, but to buy time to show the Vaughn that humanity won't be easily conquered. Captain Singh stood up slowly. When do we launch, sir? 1800 hours, Reed replied. Get some rest. In 12 hours, we're going to teach the Vaughn something they've never learned. That the most dangerous enemy isn't always the strongest one. As the team dispersed to their quarters, Professor Wilson approached Reed. Commander, there's something I didn't mention in the briefing. Something about Vaughn's psychology that might be important. Reed turned to him. What is it, Professor? Their concept of honor, of hierarchy, it's not just cultural. Based on their communications we've intercepted, it seems to be biological. Genetic. Lower-ranking Vaughn literally cannot disobey higher-ranking ones. It's not discipline. It's instinct. Reed considered this. So if we capture Dorn, his subordinates will be compelled to obey him, Wilson finished. Even if he's our prisoner, even if we're forcing him to give orders, they may not be able to resist following his commands. A slow smile spread across Reed's face. Professor, you may have just given us the key to ending this war. As the UES Paragon prepared for its most dangerous mission, Commander Reed stood on the observation deck looking out at the stars. In a few hours, he would either help secure humanity's future or die trying. For a species that had evolved fighting itself, he thought those weren't bad odds. The war for humanity's place in the galaxy was about to take its most crucial turn.